Instructions. As you read, think about how archaeologists are reaching conclusions about life in the Stone Age. Specifically, think about what did the archaeologists see in the caves, and how did they study what they found to make their claims or best guesses. Stone Age toddlers may have had art lessons. Stone Age toddlers may have attended a form of prehistoric nursery where they were encouraged to develop their creative skills in cave art, say archaeologists. Research indicates young children express themselves in an ancient form of finger painting. Archaeologists at one of the most famous prehistoric caves in France have discovered that children were actively helped to express themselves through finger fluting, or running fingers over soft red clay to produce decorative crisscrossing lines, zigzags, and swirls. In 2006, Leslie Van Gelder of Walden University unveiled a new technique for identifying flutings artists developed after measuring and analyzing the hands of thousands of contemporary people. By measuring the width of the fluting made by the three middle fingers, index, middle, and ring, it is possible to distinguish between individuals. The research into finger measurements also proved that any flutings less than 34 millimeters or 1.3 inches wide were made by children under the age of 7. Van Gelder also found that the shapes at the top edges of the fingers allow them to determine the gender of certain fluting creations. Based on this system, they concluded that women and children were responsible for many of the flutings. The drawings, including depictions of mammoths, form just a small proportion of the art found within the 5 Mile Cave system. The majority of the drawings are flutings covering the walls and roofs. One chamber is so rich in flutings by children it is believed to be an area set aside for them. The marks of 4 children, estimated to be aged between 2 and 7, have been identified there. It suggests it was a special place for children. Adults were there, but the vast majority of artwork is by children, said Jess Cooney, a PhD student at the university's archaeology department. It's speculation, but I think it's in this particular chamber, children were encouraged to make more art than adults. It could have been a playroom where children gathered, or a room for practice, or it could have been a room used for a ritual for particular children, perhaps an initiation of sorts. The juxtaposition of the flutings of individuals indicate the relationship between the cave dwellers. The researchers say, for example, the markings show that one 7-year-old girl was most often in the company of the smallest of the adults, probably male and possibly an older brother. Some of the children's flutings are high up on the walls and on the ceilings, so they must have been held up to make them or have been sitting on someone's shoulders, said Cooney. Flutings by the 2-year-old suggest that the child's hands were guided by an adult. Cooney says, the fluting and fingering are very controlled, which is highly unusual for a child of that age, and suggests it was being taught. The research shows us that children were everywhere, even in the deepest, darkest caves furthest from the entrance. They were so involved in the art, you really begin to question how heavily they were involved in everyday life. The art shows us this is not an activity where children were running amok. It shows collaboration between children and adults encouraging children to make these marks. This was a communal activity. We don't know why people made them. We can make guesses like they were initiation rituals, for training of some kind, or simply something to do on a rainy day, said Cooney. Now that you've read this article, think about the claims or best guesses the author made. What evidence did they use to make these claims? In the space provided, summarize the evidence or claim that matches up with the claim or evidence provided. For example, the claim the flutings were made by children. Think about how the scientists figured this out. What specific things did they find that made them think like this?